not for the spotlight. Recovering Deion Sanders shuts down opportunism, while Michael Irvin shows what real brotherhood looks like in a world where friendships often flicker in the glare of cameras and fame, where loyalty sometimes bends under the weight of headlines and hype. A rare moment unfolded between two legends, one that reminded us what real brotherhood looks like. It wasn't staged. It wasn't curated. It wasn't meant for social media virality. It was raw, human, painful, and ultimately redemptive. On one side sat Deion Sanders, recovering from a silent, private war with bladder cancer. On the other sat Michael Irvin, not just a former teammate, not just another NFL Hall of Famer, but a brother forged through fire. "You came as my brother, and you lifted me," Sanders said, his voice slower now, weaker than fans remember, but still sharp, like you used to so often do when we played together. It wasn't about the cameras or the headlines. Then came the sting, direct, brutal, honest. "You're not trying to prostitute my trial or my tribulation." The air thickened. The weight of the moment landed hard, because it wasn't just about Irvin's loyalty. It was about others who hadn't shown the same, that face again. Irvin's memory of Sanders at his lowest. Irvin, who built his reputation as the playmaker, fearless over the middle. 11,900 for career receiving yards, 65 touchdowns, and 3 Super Bowl rings. Didn't just visit Sanders out of obligation. He showed up when no one else could understand what Sanders was going through. "I remember the last time I saw your face like that," Irvin said, voice breaking. "When I was lying on the carpet and you were standing over me praying." For a moment, time seemed to rewind. The public images of prime time, the glitz, the flash, the dual sport dominance, faded into silence. And in that silence, two men remembered what pain really looked like. That image haunted Irvin, seeing Sanders stripped of all the armor, the bravado, the coach's whistle, the charisma, was devastating. Not because it made him weak, but because it revealed how hard he had tried to carry everything alone. A silent battle. Deion's decision to protect his son Sanders had been diagnosed with bladder cancer back in April. The surgery followed in early May. He lost nearly 25 pounds. His energy drained, his usual fire dimmed, and yet he told no one, not even his sons, Shedder and Shilo. Because Coach Prime wasn't just a father, he was also a protector. They had enough on their plate, he would later explain. Draft pressure, scrutiny. I didn't want them worrying about me. So while the world judged Shedder's draft, Slidor wondered why Shilo went undrafted. Their father, their rock, was fighting a far more personal battle. In silence, with dignity, and with no need for applause. Brotherhood beyond the game. The story of Sanders and Irvin goes far beyond stats and Super Bowls. It begins in the hot, crowded neighborhoods of Florida, where kids learned to survive before they learned to shine. It grew stronger under the pressure of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys dynasty, one of the most scrutinized and star-studded teams in NFL history. They weren't just teammates. They were brothers. And like all brothers, their bond was cemented not in the victories but in the valleys. "Our whole life what we've done we had a limp," Sanders said. "When have we ever not been hurt? As kids, we carried pain, stuff that troubled us, but that made us who we are today." Irvin nodded. "You're right. I had to fight through it." This wasn't performative empathy. This was shared trauma. From childhood to championships, they'd been wounded, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but never broken. Fourth and inches kind of loyalty. If there's one way to describe their bond, it's this: fourth and inches in an FC championship game trust. The kind of trust where failure isn't an option, and you need to know the guy beside you won't flinch. It's the kind of loyalty that doesn't need an invite. It shows up, it listens, it holds the flashlight in the dark when the world turns off the lights. Think of it like a cope mission on the hardest difficulty. When one player goes down, the other doesn't grab the loot and bounce. He fights through wave after wave, not because it's the easiest path, but because it's the right one. That's what Irvin did. He pushed past the walls Sanders had built to hide his pain. He looked beyond the 25-pound weight loss, the fatigue, the fear. He sat with his brother, not as a media figure, not as a teammate, just as a man. No agenda, no highlight reel, just presence, seeing the man, not the myth the world knows. Prime time, the NFL icon, the two-time Super Bowl champ, the MLB outfielder, the college football coach who turned Jackson State into a national talking point and then sparked a $300 million economic boom in Boulder. He's loud, he's flashy, he's the face of a movement. But Irvin, he saw Deion Sanders, the man, the friend, the brother on his knees in prayer, and that, in the end zone of life, is the only stat that really matters. Real friendship isn't for sale in a culture obsessed with narratives and sound bites. Sanders offered a sharp rebuke to those who would use his pain for clicks. There's people out there who want to profit off your pain, he said. They'll come around when the cameras are rolling, but not when you're lying in bed, wondering if you'll walk again. But Irvin, he came before the news broke. He came when it was ugly. That's love. That's godly love. It's a line in the sand between opportunism and brotherhood, between pretending and showing up, still fighting, still teaching though. The surgery was a success, and Sanders now calls himself cancer-free. The recovery is far from over. His energy is still low. His trademark voice doesn't carry the same thunder. But the fire, it's there. Quiet now, but burning. He's still guiding Colorado's football program, even if from a distance. And through it all, Irvin remains close. Not as a mentor or motivator, but simply as a friend. One who remembers the face of a brother in pain and refuses to let him walk through it alone. Final whistle in the end. This story isn't about football. It's about faith. It's about pain. And above all, it's about presence. Deion Sanders has always lived in the spotlight. But the most important moments of his life, the ones that shaped his soul, have happened in the dark. And it's in those quiet places that the brightest lights shine. Michael Irvin didn't come with a camera crew. He didn't post a selfie. He didn't ask for credit. He came with love. And that, more than any touchdown or trophy, will be his greatest play. Because true brotherhood isn't about sharing the spotlight. It's about holding the flashlight when the lights go out.